Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Thomson Reuters, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to this Newsmaker event. I am delighted to see many distinguished guests in the audience. A very warm welcome to Dr. Yaakob Ibrahim, Singapore Minister for Communications and Information, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and the Indonesian delegation of ministers, and our distinguished customers, as well as representatives from the international, Singapore, and Indonesian press. You're all most welcome. Thank you for joining us today with His Excellency President Yudhoyono of the Republic of Indonesia and Madam First Lady Ibu Anu Yudhoyono. Thomson Reuters Newsmakers are a discussion forums that bring together our top global experts, CEOs, leading politicians, and thought leaders to debate key issues in front of a live virtual audience. At Thomson Reuters, we connect the global financial community at the speed of the business. With today's Newsmaker event, we are connecting our global community through a live stream on Reuters.com, Reuters Insider, and Thomson Reuters Icon. And we'll be making questions available online from our Global Markets Forum. Thomson Reuters has a long history of delivering information in the region and Indonesia. Since 1957, we have hired talent and invested in Indonesia to serve our increasing customer base. As one of the world's fastest growing economies, Indonesia's influence on the world stage is growing and generating significant interest and global financial and investment community. It is now my great honor to welcome Excellency President Yudhoyono, Republic of Indonesia, to talk to us about what he has in store for these dynamic emerging markets. Please.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Please be seated.
Thank you, David. Mr. President, thank you. Please start your address.
Speaking in Indonesian. Testing. All set.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to speak in Indonesian language, Bahasa Indonesia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most benevolent, Your Excellency, Mr. Yaakob Ibrahim, Minister for Communication and Information of Singapore,
Bapak David Baker,
Mr. David Baker, Managing Director, Asia Sale Thomson Reuters, Mr. Alfred Lee, Managing Director of ASEAN Thomson Reuters, Mr. Jason Schwab, Bureau Chief of Reuters News, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests. First of all, let me say thank you very much to Mr. David Baker, who has invited me at this very important event. I can share with you and can dialogue with and talk with you directly with leaders of the business world, distinguished bankers, leaders of the finance markets, and journalists also, and everybody here who is present at this good opportunity, at this meeting, at this Newsmaker event that is very important. Yesterday, I just attended the event that is organized by the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. We discussed, dialogue many things on economic development, development in democracy, and also political stability that is present in Indonesia. NTU had awarded me their appreciation to me, what Indonesia has achieved till today, especially in the field of safeguarding economic growth at a time when the world is facing a recession or a global crisis. Also, NTU viewed that we were able to continue to consolidate our democracy, something that is not easy. And at the same time, we were able to maintain political stability that is in our country, no doubt. We must be frank with you that there are still many things that has been achieved in Indonesia relating to economic growth, democracy, and political stability, but still there are many things that we must do. It means that there are still many challenges, issues that Indonesia must overcome in the years to come. I also wish to, no doubt, share with you, all of you, on the many issues, especially relating to the developments in economic development in Indonesia, or even in our region, or even at the global level. I will not reflect the statistical data or numbers. I think all of you know on the progress of the global economy, the regional economy, and also ASEAN economy, and also Indonesia's economic statistics. I just wish to convey to you that what are the fundamental issues that is being faced by Indonesia as we safeguard our economic growth. At the same time, we maintain our economic resilience at a time when the global economy is unfriendly, at a time when the world is still facing an extended recession. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to convey to you that Indonesia is unique, is khas, special. Maybe not many investors, or not all investors know about this, or our partners know about this, or even our friendly countries know about this uniqueness of Indonesia. For example, in Indonesia, there are a number of views. For example, there is those views that are very against the market or anti-market, or those that are anti-capitalism. At the same time, there are groups in Indonesia that are pro-market, those that believe that capitalism is inevitability in globalization. It is something that are a part of globalization. There are also groups that in Indonesia that the government must play a greater role. But on the other hand, there are those who say, no, enough, the government should not be intervening too much. Let the market forces balance things out. So that as me, as a leader, I have to choose the policies and the strategies that are most appropriate. And honestly and frankly, I choose the third way out, the third path, or the middle way out. We don't need to be disturbed by those bipolar views. What's important is our economy grows. What's important is our people are more prosperous. That is what I wish to convey to you. That is what I wish to always underline and tell the people of Indonesia. So be freed from such ideological thinking that is awkward, that is dogmatic. Let us all discover the policies, the strategies that is, again, that will bring economic growth, that will bring down unemployment, that will reduce poverty, and ultimately our people will be more prosperous. In fact, when the world was facing a crisis in 2008 and 2009, honestly, I conveyed to them, Indonesia takes a path, takes a journey that is not always the same as what has been taught to us by our economic teachers, our professors, the economists in those developed countries. No doubt we understand the market mechanism and the laws of the market, but there is a specificness of Indonesia, the uniqueness of Indonesia, and therefore we have a strategy that we develop. We don't choose a model that become export economy, but we strengthen our domestic market. And at the same time, if there is stimulus that we must inject at a time when the global crisis has reached its peak, not for only stimulation of growth, but also to provide the necessary budget to ensure that we can protect the society, social protection measures. And that's why we choose to avoid layoffs. That's why we provide incentives for the business world so that they will not use layoffs as a way to survive. And at the same time, we pursue a journey, a path, a policy to empower the people, a keep buying strategy. If the people can still buy, if the poor are assisted, if they can still consume, produce those that are produced by the market markets. Therefore, there will be consumption. There will not be any bankruptcy of companies, and ultimately, the real sector will still thrive. My point is, no doubt, I adopt the views and the universal theories, but there is a specific uniqueness of Indonesia that we utilize as an important material reference in designing our strategy and policies. I also wish to share with you that the choices and the strategy of economic development that we take, that we implement for the past 8.5 years, it is a 4-track strategy. It means a strategy that is pro-growth, a strategy that is pro-jobs, a strategy that is pro-poor, and ultimately pro-environment. So at a time when the global recession took place, there are 2 twin objectives. There are 2 major goals that we must strive for. Firstly is our economy must continue to grow. Number 2, Indonesia's economy must be resilient. It must have a strength to withstand shocks, not fall when there are global shocks at the international level. And no doubt, my mission, my responsibility as the president, including the responsibility of my government, is how we may achieve those targets, those goals, be it through 4-track strategy, or shall we utilize the twin target or twin goals at a time when the world is facing global crisis. That is, we strive for maintaining growth. At the same time, we maintain economic resilience. Those all are what Indonesia has done in its effort to face the dynamic social-political situation. Indonesia is conducting still major transformation. Our politics are very dynamic, and no doubt our social lifestyles are very, very dynamic. We have to implement economic growth in such circumstances. At the same time, we must face a time when the world is still changing. The world is very dynamic. And also, at the same time, if we discuss the issue of Indonesian politics, we are in a situation, and then we have a very media that's very critical, a press that's very critical, even sometimes cynical. So in those kind of situations, how we may be able to maintain our strategies, our policies, to achieve those goals or those objectives that I have mentioned earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, however it may be, there is still much that Indonesia must do in our country, many things we must do, but I'm grateful, I'm still happy, because our economy is still surviving. We survive in very difficult years, and we continue to grow. And more than that, because our economic growth is not the only ultimate goal for Indonesia, unemployment and poverty at a stage by stage is something that we continue to reduce. That itself is still in the livelihood of our democracy. We maintain this kind of maintaining political stability in our country is also something that we maintain. My final point, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the question, therefore, is everything rosy in Indonesia? Is everything good? Is everything already fine? Okay, let me tell you, it's not. No doubt, it's not all rosy. There are still many things, homeworks that we must do. There are still many things we must repair in the years to come, in the next decades to come. And I, along with my cabinet, will continue to work hard, at least for the duration of my administration, another 1.5 years. I will accelerate, expand, resolve all that we may address, that we need to address. So therefore, when the time comes, I may hand over my presidency to the next president, the economic development of Indonesia. I will hand over the achievements of our economy to the next president at the upcoming 2014 election. This is what I wish to share with you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, and I'm ready to answer your question, discuss with you, with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Please take a seat. Thank you. Okay. Thank you again, Mr. President. Now we'll be moving on to the second part of the program, which is a conversation moderated by 2 of our most senior journalists in the region for Reuters, Deputy Global Managing Editor and Asia Editor Diane Kandapa, and Southeast Asia Bureau Chief Jason Zepp. Now, Jason and Diane will be leading the conversation, but as soon as they've asked their first question, we will be inviting our guests, including those from our Global Market Forum, which is a chat room, and an Icon Messenger community. We will be inviting guests from the chat room also to ask questions. So as soon as Diane has opened up the floor, please feel free to raise your hands, and he will call on you. Okay, so Diane and Jason.
Mr. President, thank you again. In your remarks, you made reference to the strategy of your administration, which is to be pro-growth, pro-poor, pro-jobs, and pro-environment. At the heart of those issues lies the problem of fuel subsidies, which your new acting finance minister, Mr. Rajasa, said he will make a priority. As you look towards your legacy in the last 1.5 years of your administration, do you see full subsidy reform happening while you are president? And if so, in what order of magnitude, by how much do you expect the overall full subsidy bill to be reduced?
Yes. At a time when I took my role as president in 2004, just a few months after that, I raised the prices of fuels. The fuel prices I raised, and 6 months later, I again raised the number of fuel more than 150%. That took place in 2005, and also later on, when there are new developments and crude oil continue to grow at the global level, again I increased the price of fuel price in Indonesia in 2008. But because there is suddenly a drastic drop in crude oil prices, I also brought the prices down. Now, the situation is in a place where I must make a decision how we may address reducing those subsidies. The government is working at this moment to find a way to reduce the subsidies on the one hand, and number two, we can increase the price of fuel without resulting in inflation that are excessive, and which at the end will result in more poverty. So the policies that I have to choose is something that those are the two factors I must consider. It's being discussed right now, formulated right now. I don't need to convey to you how much I'm going to increase it by how much rupiah, but what is important, it will be good for our fiscal. It will make our fiscal more healthy. It will not result in a massive growth, a jump in poverty levels. Therefore, the government can still protect the people. And no doubt, there will be more efficiency, and we'll use efficiency for other uses, maybe for infrastructure building, or even for addressing poverty. So those two are very, very prioritized. My conclusion, yes, we realize that the subsidy that is too big is not healthy for our fiscal, for our macroeconomics, and we will we'll take the necessary steps to reduce those subsidies next month. God willing, it will further strengthen the situation of our Indonesian macroeconomy and strengthen our real sectors in Indonesia.
We'll open it up for questions right after Jason's question.
Sure. Mr. President, your choice of the new acting finance minister, Mr. Rajasa, has come under some criticism. Some economists have raised concerns of what it means for monetary and fiscal policy, particularly at a time when the budget and the rupiah are already under pressure. How long would you expect Mr. Rajasa to stay in this role? And could you give us a sense of the reasons behind why you appointed him?
Actually, in truth, the Minister Hatta Rajasa is only as interim finance minister before I appoint a new finance minister. So it is true I receive such questions. Why is there a change of finance ministers? The finance minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati in the past, she resigned because there is a request from the World Bank. So I didn't relieve her and I agreed to her request, and she has a position in World Bank, and therefore I appointed Mr. Agus Martowoyo. Now the Mr. Agus will be the new Reserve Bank chief. It is a very important role for me. The finance minister, the next one, will be one. On the one hand, he must be able to safeguard the health of the fiscal of our budget. He must maintain prudence. healthy fiscal, and I know that's very, very important. But at the same time, the finance minister may be able to adapt policies and regulations to develop investment in Indonesia. And also he or she must be able to create more jobs. So the role of finance minister, in my view, in Indonesia, is not only as a person that will manage the fiscal situation the best way. That is his role, but I support that completely. But through policies and regulations, that finance minister must also be able to promote investment, because the source of our growth today is domestic consumption. We must safeguard. We know that exports are a bit weak, and government spending is always limitation. Therefore, investment is critical. Therefore, it's not possible that Indonesian economy can grow 6% as it is today, or even more, if the investment is not moving forward. And all ministers, not only finance minister, they must truly be able to invite investment as high as possible, domestic or even foreign investment. So those are my considerations when I choose the next finance minister. As soon as possible, and they will be working in a team. If it's not one team, no doubt it will not be effective for the entirety of Indonesia's economic management.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your opportunity now to ask the President any questions that are on your mind. If you would please raise your hands if you want to get a microphone sent over to you. We've got a question right here. And please tell us where you're from, sir, and give us your question.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your time. My name is Kelvin Tay. I'm CIO of UBS South Asia. Just wondering, what are your thoughts with regards to the growing Chinese economic influence in this region and the increasing US pivot towards Asia as well? And how do you think Asian countries should actually balance between both giants in this world? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Asia is a great space, a great region. I think we all welcome the presence of China as a new economic powerhouse, and also the presence of the United States as a regional power, because however it may be, our region must be stable. We have an architecture for cooperation in our region that is new. I think you already know that one. We have the East Asia Summit, 10 countries of ASEAN plus China, Japan, Korea, India, New Zealand, Australia, and the United States and Russia. I know that those two giants are China and the US. For Indonesia, I think, and also for the region, I think our hope is that China will continue to play its role as a regional power that bring benefit for the entire region, and so too the United States. And also they may play a role apart from the economic growth growing. It will contribute also to our region, but also our region becomes safe, orderly, and stable. So I hope that the presence of those two giants, China and the US, they need not be faced with each other, clashing with each other. We all want to be friends with China, with the US. Let us all build an environment, a situation where we all can be part of the solution. We can all be contributing to the growth of our regional economy. At the same time, we can ensure stability and security in our region.
Let's open it up for another question in the audience. Do we have any other hands going up? If not, I think Jean Chua, our editor from the Icon Messenger community, the Global Markets Forum, she's been talking to customers in that forum over the last 24 hours and lining up questions. So, Jean, I'm sure you have a question from the forum.
We do. Hi.
Yes.
Hi, President. Thank you for coming on today. I have a question from actually Swantek Kin of UOB. Basically, we're talking about the deal with DBS and Danamon. The deal is worth more than $7 billion, but it's on hold. So, looking forward to your legacy, you're leaving office. Do you wish to see the deal being completed before then? And what kind of flexibility does the Indonesian Central Bank have in terms of ownership? Would it be capped at 40%, or is there some kind of consideration? Would it be lifted to full ownership? Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes. This is a bank, reserve bank, isn't it? In principle, I encourage cooperation of economics as best as possible between Indonesia and its partners abroad. The cooperation that is mutually beneficial, good for Indonesia, no doubt, and good for the people of Indonesia, but also beneficial for our partners abroad. So if we see this, if this is in the domain of the Reserve Bank of Indonesia, the Central Bank of Indonesia. My responsibility, therefore, is to continue that what has been negotiated all this time can quickly be resolved as best as possible. Once again, the principle is all cooperation is to enhance economic growth in Indonesia. It must be real, but at the same time, it must bring benefit to all. I will convey your thinking and your request like this to the Reserve Bank of Indonesia. I hope that in the very short term it may be resolved. In principle, my policy is to just promote all cooperation, because through cooperation, I'm sure, it is almost certain, it will bring benefit, so long as the cooperation is genuine, so long as the contracts are good, so long as all aspects have been considered. So that's my answer to you. And I promise you, I will convey this to the governor of the Central Bank of Indonesia. I hope that it will move forward.
Mr. President, if I may, because this is a financial industry audience, so let's leave the specific DBS deal aside. If it goes through, you could see several similar such deals across the Indonesian financial sector. Is this something that you would like to see as part of your legacy? Would you welcome such an opening up? Or are you worried about the risks of it?
Yes, honestly, I share with you, as I mentioned in my opening statement, in Indonesia, there are two kinds of blocks or kind of schools of thought. Some are not happy if everything is opened up completely. At the same time, there are some groups in Indonesia. Some say that international cooperation that is as wide as possible will bring benefit for the country. In fact, as a president, I am one of representing of the 237 million people. I have to listen to all those views, but at the end of the day, what we choose, it's a cooperation that truly brings benefit. A cooperation that really is needed by Indonesia. So I cannot be black and white. Shall I pursue opening up the market as wide as possible, or shall I be tendentious to close the markets? What I will see in a constructive manner. Sometimes we have to see it by case, of course. So that's what I want to convey to you. I am not a leader that wishes to close himself. I'm open. But openness itself must be well regulated based on the wishes of the people. And importantly, it must bring real benefit both for Indonesia and also its partners, our investors.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? We have a question back there.
Selamat pagi, Pak Presiden. Terima kasih atas kedatangannya.
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you for coming this morning.
Just my question this morning is, what do you think is the greatest challenge to Indonesian economy over the next 10 years, according to your vision? Thank you.
The first thing, the challenge, we are worried if there are a crisis or shocks at the global level. We're concerned for a global shock. Like in the past, in 2008, 2009, as a consequence, our growth dropped only 4.3% in 2009. So I hope that this doesn't occur too often, global economic shocks or a global economic crisis. That's number one. Number two, indeed, we are conducting two major projects, two major goals. Firstly, we want to develop our infrastructure. We want to build our connectivity. We want to build our investment at a massive level. Nationwide, Indonesia, we have a target that is quite ambitious until 2030. And it is our hope that this can unfold the best way possible. It can be implemented, because if we can implement it, we may be able to reach the second goal, to reduce poverty, in which is still present in Indonesia, and both of them are just as important. For that reason, the risk that could occur is if there's a challenge of global shocks or a new global economic crisis. There's number two, if there is a situation where those two paths cannot be resolved the best way possible, next 10 to 20 years, especially in investment, massive levels don't come in, or massive infrastructure development. So therefore, economically, socially, and politically, at the end of the day, it will not have a positive impact. So therefore, I know what is the challenges. I know the risks also, and that is what we are conducting right now. We're doing our utmost, all out, to try and resolve that problem.
Sure. Mr. President, in 2004, you mentioned that what Indonesia needed was shock therapy to rid the country of endemic corruption. When you were re-elected in 2009, or between when you were re-elected in 2009 until 2012, Indonesia's rankings on the Transparency International's sort of index of corrupt nations actually fell from 111 to 118. And a number of your members of your party, some members in your cabinet have been accused of corruption. How can you lead the fight against corruption when so many members of when you have members of your party are actually sort of struggling with it? And secondly, do you think the KPK, the agency tasked to tackle this, needs to be reformed, given that corruption is actually, according to international indices, has actually become worse?
I have to check what is clear. The transparency index for Indonesia is not worsened. It's not getting any worse. It depends on who is measuring it. I think, who can answer this for me? What is the level that we have right now? So right now, it's not getting any worse. It's actually improving, even though I'm still unsatisfied. I'm still not satisfied. I still think it's it's below the corruption levels of Indonesia. Could still be much improved. But it's like this, ladies and gentlemen. I too I'm slightly frustrated because, in fact, to make a system that is clean, to make bureaucratic reform, good governance, eradication corruption, it is not as easy as I expected or as I thought in the past. I thought in the past, maybe in 10, 15 years, we can resolve this. Hong Kong, for example, a small country, 13 years it took. I spoke with Donald Tsang, my good friend. I want to learn from you. And it turns out, he said, Mr. President, it takes time, especially Indonesia is complex like that. So it's not as easy as turning your hand. But what I wish is to accelerate, to create a system that is cleaner in Indonesia. In the past, maybe, because the campaign against corruption was not aggressive. Maybe independent institutions against corruption were not functioning as well as possible. So it didn't seem like there were many corruption. But today we can see many more indicators because we're very serious. We don't pick and choose. Anybody will be charged for corruption. So how we read it is not for you to see that there is more corruption taking place. Maybe in the past it was safe because the law enforcers could not reach them. But today, no one can hide from corruption. It is like that. We will continue to work hard. Our KPK will continue to function. Our polices, our attorney generals, they will continue to reform and they will do their function. We will prioritize on preventing acts of corruption. Many we can prevent. And I have a conviction, I have a belief, maybe if it took Hong Kong 13 years, maybe Indonesia, it'll take 20 to 25 years, maybe we'll be cleaner, our country will be freed from corruption. And corruption will not be a rule, but it will be an exception. And it is our hope that once corruption is becoming less evident, our economy will grow further from 7%. Because we know that there's a lack of infrastructure, there are still many bottlenecks, there are still many acts of corruption. But praise the Lord, our economy continues to grow. And if we resolve all of that, I think we have greater prospect for growth. That's my strategy, that's my vision. So please be patient, the business world. Indonesia is not willing to resolve eradicate corruption. We work hard and we work night and day. I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm angry. Why can't this thing be resolved? But still, this is my responsibility. No doubt, addressing corruption is not only for the executive. There are other law enforcers, judiciary, all parties, all stakeholders, including the relation between the business world and the government. Also, they too must play their role. Avoid collusion. We must avoid such acts of bribery between the government and the business. That is poison to us. So in my opinion, the government will do its utmost, will be the front line, upholding the law enforcers. I seek your cooperation. I seek the participation of partners and friendly states to help Indonesia to make our system even more cleaner. I believe that maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, Indonesia, with its weight today, will become even better. Our corruption will be even lesser.
Let's give the audience another opportunity. We have a hand going up there, right in front here.
Pak Presiden,
Mr. President, Budi Sadikin from Bank Mandiri. Mr. President, China can grow its economy to high levels. Is it leadership? What is the leadership role that Indonesia can take so that we are bring the ASEAN economy even higher? Yes, the Indonesian economy today, in terms of GDP, is the biggest in Southeast Asia. Indonesia is also a country that possesses a position that is in East Asia that is significant. So if we can maintain our economic growth, that's number one. If Indonesia can enhance its domestic markets, that means more incentive for trade and investment. If Indonesia can maintain its economic resilience, it means that will contribute to the growth of the resilience of an opportunity of trade and investment for all of ASEAN or even Southeast Asia. So if my friendly countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and other countries also do the same thing, it means ASEAN will contribute to Asia's economic growth, and that's an important pillar in the global growth. When Europe is still facing crisis, BRICS is facing challenges, the US is still growing slowly. Therefore, we make Indonesia strong first, we make its growth stable and resilient, and then we will contribute to our region, Southeast Asia, and ultimately our world will feel the impact. In the forum of G20, I also convey that the developing countries must do their job, and the developed world, the countries must also do their job. So therefore, international trade investment will unfold well, global growth will go well also, financial situation will improve, and that's what I wish to, that's what I share, what Indonesia can do for the ASEAN regional economy.
Let's see, yes, there's a hand at the back there. It's gone up.
Mr. President, my name is Paul Bernard, and I'd like to thank you for sharing the time with us this morning, and also I'd like to congratulate you and your team of ministers for shepherding Indonesia very successfully through this period of turbulence globally and very successfully for the population. I understand you and your delegation is heading to Myanmar when you leave Singapore, and I'm sure the government there has many, many questions for you and your team. And I was just curious, given your experience not only leading Indonesia, but just watching Indonesia's own transition over the last decade, what are the 2 or 3 things you would like to leave the leaders of Myanmar with of to-do items or things they need to really prioritize as they're looking at transforming their economy, their political system, their society? Thank you.
Yes. I build friendly relations with Myanmar even far before in Myanmar is in a situation today when a time when Myanmar was faced by embargoes and sanctions by Western countries. At that time, I already conducted communication with General Senior Tan Swe and also the prime ministers of Myanmar. Why I conducted this communication? I wanted to encourage them to continue their process of democratization, so they don't need to be helped by embargo, because if there's always an embargo, it's not good for ASEAN also, because Myanmar is a member of ASEAN. So in the midst of a very difficult time, the world is skeptical, my communication with Myanmar seems to be meaningless. I continue to do this, and praise the Lord, Myanmar suddenly changed like it is today, and world leaders now are visiting Myanmar, arriving in Myanmar, because they see now Myanmar has changed. I will visit Myanmar today for the first time, firstly to support and to promote the process of democratization, of nation building, rule of law, human rights, promotion that is existing in Myanmar. I will support them completely for them to continue this pursuit. Number 2, there are challenges of change, authoritarian, changing to becoming a democratic regime. In the past, Indonesia, we faced a similar case. The military must leave politics, must they be out of politics, relinquish it to the civil power, leave it to democracy, elections, fair. I will also share with him, it is also in my interest to see Myanmar continue to move forward in that direction. At the same time, there is also other challenges in Myanmar, like communal tension, facing the like ethnic of Rohingya. I know that is communal conflict, but if it's not addressed the best way possible, its impact is not good for Myanmar and even for Indonesians who are majority Muslims. I will encourage that Myanmar will address it wisely, appropriately, prevent tension and violence, and we, Indonesia, are ready to support them to reach those goals. And no doubt, there is also an economic interest for Indonesia in Myanmar. No doubt there is opportunities for cooperation in the field of investment, trade, mining, food security, especially in rice and also other sectors. So no doubt that is the interest of Indonesia to work closely with Myanmar. So if they ask me, what can Indonesia, what can SBY convey to Myanmar as his friend, as their partner, and I will convey together we can build democracy in both our countries, Indonesia and Myanmar. democracy in Indonesia is still needs to be consolidated. Our democracy is still not mature, not exemplary. I want to share with him our experience with Myanmar, so how we can both move forward, so we can both have a meaningful democracy, so we can both truly respect the human rights. I think it's like that, what I'm going to convey to him.
Let's see if we can get another question in from the audience. Over here.
Good morning, Your Excellency. Robert Bruce from CLSA. I had a question on connectivity, which you mentioned. A number of nations in ASEAN have opened up to tourism, open skies, greater connectivity. Indonesia has made some steps forward, but is still quite limited in terms of the connectivity. Is this something you want to push forward? And is it a case that you need more capital investment into infrastructure such as airports to move this forward? And will you promote more foreign investment into these infrastructure projects to drive Indonesia's greater connectivity? Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Connectivity
is very important. Indonesia desires to also build its regional connectivity, ASEAN connectivity, and as we see the geography size of Indonesia, I think we have an important role to build connectivity of domestic nationwide, which will later be integrated inside the connectivity of ASEAN. In fact, all of East Asia, we are working for that. Acceleration of economic growth, our master plan, in essence, is building infrastructure and connectivity, and at a time, at the same time as we have with development of connectivity in Indonesia, no doubt we welcome to build connectivity of ASEAN. It's mentioned a lot, such as air transportation. Just recently, Indonesia and Singapore signed a cooperation to further enhance air transportation because it's good for tourism. It's good for Indonesia and Singapore, and Indonesia is a country that possesses a lot of destination of tourists. If we cooperate with Singapore, there will be a flow of tourists from Singaporeans to Indonesia and Indonesia to Singapore, and reversely, that is our destination. We welcome investment. We welcome investment for air transport or other sectors because connectivity is very important for Indonesia. Logistics of Indonesia are still very expensive. In east parts of Indonesia, what we want is to make it more efficient for them. What we want is that more infrastructure in east part of Indonesia, rules and policies that facilitate their needs. We continue to work hard for this. And my point is, we welcome you, cooperation in the field of developing connectivity and infrastructure, including connectivity in air transport.
Mr. President, you just a moment ago expressed an interest in having more foreign investment. There has been some concerns by executives at multinational resource companies that the policy in terms of managing natural resources seems to be a little bit more protectionist in recent years, that there's a rise in resource nationalism. Would you agree with that, and or how would you see resolving that? Would you like to turn that around?
It's like this. I have to be frank with you. My criticism to the world, many multinational corporations that take too much, and they did not leave behind sufficiently for the people of those countries, even for the people of Indonesia. Because if the rules are to follow the interests of the multinational corporation, I don't think it's good either. However, if we are too protective, if we don't open room for a cooperation, if we don't open room for good cooperation, it's also not good for Indonesia. So one thing I want to share with you, we don't want to have the natural resources in Indonesia only to be taken, and we have no value added. There is no downstream industries. There is no added value. There is no technology to be transferred. I think for Indonesia, we will suffer. What we need is genuine partnership and cooperation. What I want is to continue to work closely with multinational corporations. I wish to still close cooperation in national resources, not just for you to come and take it abroad. But there must be an industry development there. So if there is a challenge of this matter, let's talk about it. There's still a transition. There is a readiness. There is policy change. No doubt there is transition. Let's talk about this together. I welcome you because we too don't want to have a crisis in our industries. in our business of natural resources, but please understand, we too wish to have a fair amount of share. If the fair share, that's all we want in this endeavor. So I share with this, I talk with this with the Prime Minister of Japan, I talk with other world leaders also. I think it's fair. I think they agree it's fair. If the cooperation is good for multinational corporations, but also good for the country, for the people where you do your business. That is my philosophy, and that is my views.
Let me just get a sense of how many questions there might be in the audience. We're running up against time, but any hands going up? Questions? Okay. Jason, do you want to then, in that case, wrap it up with one more question?
Sure. I know it's kind of almost a state secret who will be your successor in your party. You have a convention coming up in June, I think, where I presume we'll be announcing this. But can you give us any sort of ideas on what your thinking is about your successor? Some names have come up. Your trade minister, who I believe is here, has been mentioned. But I wonder if you could give us some ideas about how you see your succession, perhaps some names if possible.
Baik.
Right, of course. My interest, no doubt, is, of course, maybe I'm subjective about this, but for me, as an outgoing leader, to be, what I want is my successor will be a person that can continue what we have built, our economic development, our democracy, our stability of our politics, and eradication of corruption movement, and also upholding law, and also international role of Indonesia. I hope that my successor can continue this. Number two, I want my successor, he'll be a good person. My successor, he can maintain what I have done good, and what I have not done enough, he can follow through and resolve my pending issues. And I hope, thirdly, the next leader will be an outward-looking person. He's international view. He's friendly to his other countries as much as he loves his people, but also has a friendly outlook with international leaders. Therefore, we'll be having a convention for the next 8 months. Maybe there will be Indonesian individual that can fulfill all those criteria, and ultimately he or she will be chosen by the people. Because, for example, I know people that have integrity, people have capacity, people have experience, people also have a vision, but ultimately it all depends on the people of Indonesia. If that person is not liked, or if that person is liked, I'm sure he'll be chosen. Therefore, I will work through my convention, the Democrat Party convention, to provide an alternative for the people of Indonesia, so that when the time comes, when the election comes, the people can choose if they want to choose the recommendation of the convention, or maybe they can choose other candidates out there. Maybe on the matter of name, I think I am not able to. Only God knows at this time. It is my hope that he will be, or he or she will be friendly with all of you today. What we want is the Indonesian economy to continue to grow. If our economy to grow, it will grow with our partnership. It will grow with you as our partners, indigenous companies and foreign companies, and God willing, that next leader will understand the importance of such views.
Mr. President, that does seem like a very good point at which to say thank you and to stop the discussion. Thank you also to the audience for your participation. Abby?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Diane, Jason. I'd like to invite back onto the stage David Becker from Thomson Reuters, who will say a few words of thanks and conclude the program. David.
Thanks, Abby. On behalf of Thomson Reuters and to the President, thank you very much for your very insightful, robust, passionate responses to our probing editorial team. I wanted to also thank you for the honour of joining us here at the Singapore office for Thomson Reuters, and to all of you for joining us on this very special occasion today. I'd also like to invite you. We will be having an ongoing dialogue over coffee in our reception area outside, or also to visit us virtually on our Global Markets Forum. But if I could also ask you now, ladies and gentlemen, if you would kindly remain seated while the President and his delegation leave the auditorium. And thank you very much for today, and have a good day ahead. Thank you.